Hello, everyone. It's Alicia, founder and executive producer of ClariT Media. Thank you for following me here on Facebook, and thank you for subscribing on YouTube to ClariT Media and the Bay Area Mental Health Hour. But make sure you tap on the notifications bell on YouTube so that you're the first to know when I'm uploading new episodes. Yeah, they've been coming in every week. I've been able to get a lot done. So make sure that you tap on that notifications bell on YouTube. You'll be the first to know. Thank you again so much for your support. So here is the next episode of ClariT Conversations.
A record number of women elected. And that's where you saw wherever Democrats had a woman up against a male, almost 98% of the time since 2018, the woman won, regardless of race. So Biden having Kamala on the ticket, I think is right because there's something going on with women as voters and women as attractive candidates that has led to what we have right now is a record number in Congress, a record number of non-white women in Congress. So Biden is smartly reading the tea leaves. There's something going on in the American electorate, and that includes white voters too, where Kamala probably fits a demographic mode that will serve well in terms of the way the country is in this change, this transition of demographic change. So again, it seems to me that, Biden and Kamala, with her bringing so much, I think, energy in terms of just her appeal to Black women. Black women are energized. A lot of Black women, I'm not going to say all, of course, that's a ridiculous statement, but again,
Right.
Those who are politically mobilized overwhelmingly behind Kamala Harris and excited about it. And there is an energy. And I think if you don't know it, it's because you're not around it. I've been around it earlier in this election cycle. There is some enthusiasm. There's a lot of resentment towards Biden and towards Kamala. But I think, if I could talk to those Black folk, if they would listen to me, I would urge them to think about how do you win the outcome rather than simply winning the results. And by that is we can win the election and we don't get anything out of it. And I think what we have to do is learn more from Martin Luther King, what was valuable in his ministry, and that is that he showed us how to mobilize, but how to also sit in offices and do politics. I see a lot of people who are from the ADOS movement and from the Afrocentric movement, and the white man, and we don't want to be a part of this system, etc. Why vote? Voting is a waste of time. What do we get out of it? And I always say, well, then, first of all, if you're not voting, please tell me you're doing something else that's equally as powerful. Otherwise, you ain't doing nothing but talking, right?
It won't affect change, right?
But secondly, who are you to be? You think you wiser than 30 million Black people? You claim you down with your people, and let's say 30 million Black people vote, and let's say 30 million Black people vote for the Democrats, but you better than them? You smarter than 30 million Black people? You wiser than your mass? You wiser than the masses of your people, but you so revolutionary and enlightened that you so far behind them? Maybe they're wiser than you. Maybe Black people need to open their eyes and recognize what has happened in America is a brilliant achievement where the Black population as a minority population has taken over a political party that used to hang them, that used to lynch them, that used to enslave them. Black people put out minstrel. Let me say this, right? Black people put minstrel out of business. We put minstrel out of business when we put Blackface on. Look up a man named Burt Williams. Burt Williams was the Jay-Z of minstrel. White folk like Al Jolson had got famous for mocking us. Well, you've heard the saying, Alicia, why like a Chrysler 300 look like a Bentley until the Bentley show up, right? So they got these white folk, these little skinny, scrawny, right. and Jolson was Jewish, these little skinny, scrawny, Irishmen and Jewish men trying to mock Black bodies, which are bigger, stronger, more resilient, and more muscular, and with just a whole hemispheric movement. Yeah. And all of a sudden, Black folk was like, well, these white folk making money mocking us, Steppin', Fetch It, and others.
Yeah.
Burt Williams was like, well, shit, we need to just do it ourselves. So the Bentley showed up.
Yeah.
And the beauty with black people in blackface, and when black people put on blackface, white people nobody hired white people no more. Wasn't no need for white minstrel because black people put it out of business. See, and this is something we don't get taught. We don't get taught that we put blackface out of business by putting on blackface. And we never get credit for that. But we did that. And again, his name is Burt Williams, and there was a whole bunch of them as I think they called themselves interlocutors, right? And translators, and transliterators as dancers. And they did this in New York. This wasn't Alabama, Georgia, Memphis, and the Grand Ole Opry. This was in Broadway, New York City, where they blacked up. Black folk black up, put white people in blackface out of business forever. Put them out of business, ended it. And I say that to say, we don't give ourselves credit for that. And I'm saying that to say with the political party, you hear stupid people like Candace Owens, stupid people like Kanye West, right? Stupid people talking about black people on a Democratic plantation. Well, it would be a plantation if we had 10 and we wouldn't get off the Democratic plantation, as they call it. But the reality is there's only 2. So if there's only 2, it ain't no plantation. The reality is we don't have another choice. The reality is we only have 2 parties. Everybody's on the plantation then. If black folk is on the plantation, the Nazis is on the plantation. The alt-right is on the plantation. QAnon is on the plantation. Kanye's on the plantation, because there ain't but 2. So how you gonna blame the black group when there's only 2 choices for choosing one of the 2 damn choices, and then ignore the fact that one of the parties that used to dominate them hung them from trees. They decided in 1932, between 32 and 64, between the New Deal and the Great Society, to put white racism in the Democratic Party out for good. And black folk took over the Democratic Party. That's why everybody keeps saying black women are the backbone of the Democratic Party. Well, if you look at the data, black men are number 2 over white women, over Asian women, over white men. Number 1 is black women. Number 2 in terms of every other group available. And that means white women could be number 2. Asian women could be number 2. Latina women could be number 2. No, black men are number 2. Black women are number 1. Black women are number 1. Black men are number 2 in the Democratic Party. And I'm saying to us, why don't you open your eyes and see Burt Williams standing up in front of you instead of seeing the black face and mocking it? See the power of what the brother did. He put them out of business. He simply did what they did and did it better, and they were done. And now black folk have taken over a political party. They've taken it over and they dominate it now. James Clyburn, you saw what that brother did. We've never had a man like James Clyburn in Black America before at that rank of leadership in Congress. Respect James Clyburn's position. Respect that brother saw lynched bodies in South Carolina in the 1940s and 50s when he was a boy. Respect the fact that he knows that the hell that our people have been through in South Carolina. Who do you think you are? You 20, you 30, you hip hop, you something else, you all into social media, you TikTok, you on Twitter, you got a following, and you talking mess about James Clyburn being a sellout, and he's been facing the devil for 50 years and winning.
Give us some more names. Give us some more names.
Barbara Lee is another example that comes out of the Black Power movement, that comes from C.L. Dellums, that comes out of Asa Philip Randolph and the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, right, and maids, right here in Oakland, right here. Barbara Lee comes out of the Black Panther Party political coalition that was headed by C.L. Dellums, by C.L. Dellums. And Asa Philip Randolph is somebody he worked with closely here in California. You had people like Maxine Waters, who's been fighting on the front line for 40 years for black people out of Los Angeles. I think we should show respect for the Congressional Black Caucus. As these are our institutions, we fought to get them. We had no representation in the 1950s. We had 1 or 2 here or there after they kicked us out in the 1870s from the Reconstruction period. And now we have, the Congressional Black Caucus. And most Black Americans don't know how much work the CBC does to prevent racist legislation from ever even making it to consideration on the floor. They actually do a lot of work, a lot of good work, and they don't get credit. And again, black folk have been so brainwashed by white people and media to see their own production as not excellent, but we get sort of trained to look down on our own greatness.
Yeah.
And here
Yeah.
we are
Yeah.
dominating the Democratic Party.
Give me the name of the sister who brought the Voting Rights Act bill back to
Recently?
yes.
Oh boy, that's a good question. That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head who sponsored it. The John Lewis bill, but that
It
goes.
was under threat.
Yeah, well, the 1965 Voting Rights Act was basically eliminated in 2013, at least the enforcement part of it. And so, what the John Lewis Voting Rights Act would do would be to restore the enforcement section of 13, because the way it worked, a state from the South always had to show that it wasn't being racist from 65 on. It had to prove that if they did anything like voter registration, or let's say if they decided to do a ranked choice voting like we have in California, let's say if they decided to do that in Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, they would have to get pre-clearance permission to do ranked choice voting. California doesn't. It's not just the southern states, it's some other states too. Even New York had a oversight. But the idea is the 1965 Voting Rights Act that came out of the marching and the protesting had an enforcement section, and that was taken out in Holder, Shelby County versus Holder, 2013, right around the time that the Trayvon Martin killing and verdict all came back. And at the same time, gay marriage equality was recognized by the court. Was the same time that we had this unfortunate development.
Yeah, I'll have to look her name up and bring that up. Okay, so let me go down the list of the key battleground states: Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada, Florida,
Ohio,
Georgia,
Pennsylvania, Michigan,
North Carolina.
Yeah, and right now there's been 5 million votes. And if you look at places like Virginia, you had a large turnout of like 500,000, 600,000 people in a blue state. You look at places like Wyoming, Montana, Iowa that have had early voting. There's not this groundswell, even though these are small populations. You can just look at the red states that are voting now and the blue, and look at the numbers of turnout. And I'm assuming, I might be wrong, and I don't want to be a cheerleader.
Black woman owned. ClariT Media.